Your brain is operating at a fraction of its actual capacity right now, not because you're not smart enough, because nobody ever taught you how to use it. The same brain that landed humans on the moon is sitting inside your skull, and you're using it to scroll social media and remember where you put your keys. Here's what's terrifying. Intelligence isn't fixed. It's a skill that can be upgraded, hacked, and weaponized. The difference between you and the most dangerous minds in any room: they know the exploits. They know how their brain actually works, and they use that knowledge like a blade. Today, I'm handing you 6 cognitive weapons that neuroscience has proven can make you up to 88% more effective at learning, problem solving, and outthinking everyone around you. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. By the end of this video, your mental fire will be burning in ways you never thought possible. Let's begin. The forgetting hack. What if I told you that forgetting is actually the secret to remembering? Sounds backwards, but here's the neuroscience that will change how you learn forever. Your brain has a dirty little secret. It doesn't strengthen memories when you first learn something. It strengthens them when you almost forget and then remember again. This is called the spacing effect, and it's been proven in over 100 years of cognitive research. When you cram information, you're essentially riding in sand. The tide comes and washes it away. But when you space out your learning, letting yourself almost forget before reviewing, you're carving into stone. Time plus struggle equals permanent memory. Here's how the most dangerous minds exploit this. They use what's called retrieval practice. Instead of rereading notes, they close the book and try to recall. The struggle to remember, that uncomfortable feeling of your brain searching, that's when neural pathways are being reinforced. The harder your brain works to retrieve something, the stronger that memory becomes. Stop making learning easy. Make it hard. Make yourself forget. Then make yourself remember. But this is just the foundation, because what comes next will show you how to supercharge this process. Sleep weaponized. While you're unconscious, your brain is doing something terrifying. It's literally rewiring itself. Every night during deep sleep, your brain replays the day's experiences at 20 times normal speed. It's sorting, connecting, and discarding. This is called memory consolidation, and it's why pulling all-nighters destroys your cognitive performance for days. You're not just tired. Your brain literally couldn't finish building itself. A study at Harvard found that people who slept after learning a new skill performed 35% better than those who didn't. But here's where it gets dangerous. You can hack this process. It's called targeted memory reactivation. If you play specific sounds or smells while learning something, then replay those same cues while you sleep, your brain prioritizes consolidating those exact memories. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is when your brain builds the architecture of intelligence. The most dangerous people don't sacrifice sleep for productivity. They weaponize sleep as productivity. Sleep is the best meditation. If this is shifting how you see your own mental potential, hit like and subscribe to unlock more cognitive weapons, because what I'm about to reveal next is even more powerful. The oxygen trick. Your brain is 2% of your body weight but consumes 20% of your oxygen. Read that again. This means that how you breathe directly determines how well you think. Most people breathe shallow, anxious breaths that keep their brain in a constant state of mild oxygen deprivation. They're literally suffocating their intelligence. Suffocating. Here's the hack that special forces and elite athletes use. Controlled hyperventilation followed by breath holds. Not dangerous yogic practices, just 30 seconds of deep breathing followed by a breath hold. This floods your prefrontal cortex with oxygen while triggering the release of norepinephrine, the neurotransmitter responsible for focus and alertness. 30 seconds of conscious breathing can increase your cognitive performance by up to 15%. Studies from Stanford's neuroscience lab confirmed that rhythmic breathing patterns directly influence brain wave states. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, putting you in what researchers call the learning state. Fast, shallow breathing activates fight or flight, shutting down higher cognitive functions. Breathe slow, think deep. The most dangerous minds in any room, They've mastered their breath first. And speaking of mastery, what if I told you there's a specific way to practice that accelerates skill acquisition by 300%? Deliberate struggle. Your comfort zone is a cognitive prison. Every time you avoid mental struggle, you're choosing to stay stupid. That sounds harsh. Good. Because Anders Ericsson, the psychologist who discovered deliberate practice, found something that should terrify you. Most people practice wrong their entire lives. They repeat what they are already good at. They avoid what's hard, and they wonder why they never improve. 10,000 hours of wrong practice just makes you really good at being mediocre. The secret to accelerated learning is something called desirable difficulties. Your brain grows fastest when it's struggling just beyond its current ability. Not too easy, not impossible, right at the edge of failure. The struggle is not the obstacle to learning. The struggle is the learning. Elite performers know this. They seek out their weaknesses like predators hunting prey. They spend 80% of their time on what they are worst at, while average performers do the opposite. The more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in combat. Want to become dangerous? Stop practicing what's comfortable. Start hunting what's hard. Comfort equals stagnation. But this leads us to something that most people completely misunderstand about how the brain actually processes information. Dual processing. Your brain has two modes of thinking, and you've been using them wrong your entire life. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman won a Nobel Prize for mapping this out. System 1 is fast, intuitive, automatic. System 2 is slow, deliberate, logical. Most people let System 1 run the show because it's effortless. But System 1 is also where all your cognitive biases live. It's where snap judgments and stupid decisions are made. Fast thinking often means flawed thinking. The most dangerous minds know when to engage System 2, when to slow down and actually think. They've trained themselves to recognize the feeling of System 1 taking over and deliberately shift gears. Your first instinct is often your worst instinct when facing complex problems. Here's a simple hack. When facing any important decision, force yourself to write out your reasoning. The act of writing activates System 2. It forces logical processing. It exposes the gaps in your thinking that System 1 would happily ignore. Write to think clearly. The pen is mightier than the brain, because the pen forces the brain to actually work. Nothing is more difficult, and therefore more precious, than to be able to decide. But wait, because what comes next changes everything about how you should approach learning itself. Stress alchemy. Stress is not your enemy. Your relationship with stress is your enemy. A landmark study at Yale discovered something that should rewrite everything you believe. People who viewed stress as enhancing rather than debilitating actually experienced enhanced cognitive function during stressful situations. Same stress, different belief, completely different outcome. Mindset. Your body releases cortisol under stress regardless of how you perceive it. But your brain interprets that cortisol based on your beliefs. If you believe stress is harmful, your brain triggers inflammation and cognitive impairment. If you believe stress is helpful, your brain triggers enhanced focus and performance. The stress response you expect is the stress response you get. This is called the stress mindset effect, and it's been replicated in dozens of studies. It is not stress that kills us, it is our reaction to it. Here's how to hack this. Before any high-pressure situation, tell yourself that the physical sensations you're feeling, the racing heart, the sweating, the tension, these are your body preparing for peak performance. Not fighting you, helping you. Transform fear into fuel. Stress becomes strength. The most dangerous people don't eliminate stress. They alchemize it into power. The teaching trap. Want to become 88% smarter at something? Teach it to someone who knows nothing about it. This isn't motivational fluff. It's called the protege effect, and neuroscience explains exactly why it works. When you prepare to teach, your brain reorganizes information completely differently than when you're just trying to learn. It builds mental frameworks. It identifies gaps. It creates connections you never would have made otherwise. Your brain literally restructures itself to be worthy of being a teacher. Richard Feynman, one of the greatest physicists who ever lived, built his entire learning system around this principle. He would try to explain complex concepts in simple terms. When he couldn't, he knew exactly where his understanding was weak. If you cannot explain it simply, you do not understand it well enough. But here's the dangerous application. You don't even need a real student. Just pretend you're explaining to a 5-year-old. Write it out, speak it aloud, record yourself. Teach to learn deeper. The struggle to simplify forces your brain to truly comprehend. Every expert you admire, they've been teaching, formally or informally, for years, and that teaching made them exponentially smarter. But this brings us to something even more fundamental about how intelligence actually grows. Neuroplastic windows. There are 90-minute windows throughout your day when your brain is primed for maximum learning. Miss them and you're swimming against the tide. Catch them and you're riding a cognitive wave. This is based on Ultradian rhythms, the 90-minute cycles your brain naturally moves through. At the beginning of each cycle, focus and learning capacity peak. By the end, they crash. Most people try to push through the crash, forcing focus when their brain has already checked out. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. But Parkinson's law cuts both ways. When you align with your brain's natural rhythms, work compresses. Work with your biology, not against it. Here's the practical hack. Work in focused 90-minute blocks, then take a 20-minute break. Real break, not switching to different work. Walking, napping, or doing nothing. Time plus rhythm equals amplified results. The dangerous minds don't have more hours in the day. They have better hours. Timing is everything. They've learned to recognize when their brain is ready to receive, and they protect those windows ferociously. And speaking of protection, there's one final hack that might be the most important of all. Attention warfare. Every notification, every tab, every distraction is waging war on your intelligence. And right now, you're losing. A study at the University of California found that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus after a single interruption. Do the math. If you're interrupted just 4 times in a morning, you've lost nearly 2 hours of peak cognitive function. Destroyed. But here's what's worse. Your brain has been trained to seek interruption. Every time you check your phone, you get a tiny dopamine hit. Your brain has literally become addicted to distraction. You've been programmed to sabotage your own intelligence. The most dangerous minds treat attention like a weapon that needs to be sharpened and protected. They create environments where deep focus is the default, not the exception. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. Cal Newport, who studied high performers for years, found that elite cognitive work requires distraction-free blocks of at least 2 hours. Not checking, not glancing, complete isolation. Guard your attention fiercely. Your attention is your most precious cognitive resource. Every time you give it away cheaply, you're making yourself dumber. But this brings us to the ultimate truth about intelligence itself, the integration. Here's what separates the truly dangerous minds from everyone else. They don't use these hacks in isolation. They stack them. Spacing effect plus sleep consolidation. Deliberate struggle plus teaching. Breath work plus ultradian rhythms. Attention protection plus stress alchemy. Each hack multiplies the others. 1. Space your learning and embrace forgetting. 2. Weaponize sleep for memory consolidation. 3. Breathe deliberately to oxygenate your brain. 4. Seek struggle at the edge of your ability. 5. Engage System 2 for important decisions. 6. Transform stress into performance fuel. The synergy creates something greater than the sum of its parts. A compound effect that builds over time. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. The 88% improvement isn't about any single technique. It's about creating a cognitive lifestyle where every element supports enhanced thinking. Intelligence is not inherited. It is installed through daily practice. You now have the installation manual. Install, upgrade, dominate. The question is whether you'll actually use it. Your brain was never the problem. Your instruction manual was missing. Intelligence is a skill that responds to training. Every dangerous mind you've ever admired, every genius who seemed to operate on another level, they weren't born that way. They discovered these principles through trial and error or stumbled upon them by accident. You now have them handed to you, distilled and ready to implement. The spacing effect to make memories permanent. Sleep weaponization for overnight cognitive upgrades. Breath control for instant mental clarity. Deliberate struggle to accelerate growth. Dual processing to avoid cognitive traps. Stress alchemy to transform pressure into power. Teaching to deepen understanding. Ultradian rhythms to maximize peak performance. Attention warfare to protect your most precious resource. And integration to multiply everything together. The mind is everything, what you think you become. Starting tomorrow, your brain can begin operating at a level you never thought possible. Not because of some mystical potential you haven't accessed. Because of specific, proven techniques that exploit how your mind actually works. Become the dangerous mind. If you made it this far, comment cognitive upgrade to prove you're ready to operate at a higher level. Your mind is either running default software or upgraded software. Now you know how to upgrade it. If this rewired something in your thinking, hit subscribe. The next video might be the one that changes everything.